Imagine walking into a building and you see a line, but there are no people, just stuff sitting on the floor, a bag, a water bottle, and right there, resting on the tile, an iPhone, just waiting its turn. Would you expect this? This was the exact culture shock an American creator experienced recently while traveling in Thailand. He posted a video showing this bizarre invisible queue. The caption simply read, "US could never." In Thailand, people just drop their phone on the floor to hold their spot in line. He thought he was just sharing a quirky travel observation. He had no idea he was about to trigger a massive global debate about trust, theft, and the unspoken rules of society. Because the moment the internet saw this video, viewers from the West completely lost their minds. The immediate reaction was pure confusion mixed with a heavy dose of reality. An American user named Giovanni spoke for millions when he simply wrote, "I see a free phone." Another user called it a free loot drop. Someone else chimed in with, "All that stuff would be on eBay in the US within 5 minutes." And it makes sense, right? If you grew up in a major Western city, your first instinct when seeing unattended valuables on the ground isn't, "Oh, they are holding a spot." Your instinct is, somebody lost their stuff and somebody else is about to find it. But the reactions didn't stop at just stealing. A whole different group of people were genuinely offended by the very concept of an object holding a place. It felt like a violation of the universal rules of waiting. One commenter named Romeo laid down the law, saying, "If you aren't present in line, you aren't in line. It's simple." Another user agreed, taking it a step further. "I wouldn't steal it, but I'd walk right over it. Quit playing in my face." Others said they would just toss the stuff out of the way. Or, as one person bluntly put it, "If it's not stolen, it's getting kicked as far across the room as possible." To a lot of viewers, an object on the floor isn't a placeholder, it's an obstacle. It's a challenge. But right when the debate was heating up, right when people were arguing over whether the US was completely lawless or if the Thai queue system was just ridiculous, there was a massive pattern interrupt. Most people wouldn't notice this. But the eagle-eyed viewers started zooming in on the actual video footage, and they noticed something very, very wrong with that iPhone sitting on the ground. The creator had been so amazed by the concept, he missed a crucial detail. A user named Salvador finally asked the question, "Is the iPhone in the chat with us, or is it just that case?" Suddenly, the comments shifted. "That's an iPhone case. And there's no iPhone in it. It's just a case." Case. It was a decoy. The person in line hadn't actually risked their $1,000 device. They just dropped an empty plastic shell on the floor. But honestly, that revelation only made the foreign viewers more confused. Because in many parts of the world, even an empty phone case left unattended in a public space would get kicked, crushed, or thrown into the trash by a janitor. One commenter couldn't believe they were using such tiny items to claim space, asking in absolute disbelief, "What's next? A toothpick? It just didn't compute. How does a piece of plastic command so much respect?" Then, a Thai local jumped into the comments and added a completely new layer to the story. They wrote, "Thai people use shoes to reserve a place at the hospital." Just picture that for a second. Imagine walking into a busy hospital lobby. You're expecting a massive crowd of people standing shoulder to shoulder. Instead, you see a neat, orderly line of 50 pairs of random shoes leading all the way up to the reception desk. It sounds chaotic. It sounds like a prank. But over there, it is a perfectly respected system. Someone else pointed out that in Mexico, people also sometimes leave a single shoe to save their spot in line. It's like leaving a piece of yourself behind as collateral. Now, the original creator claimed the US could never do this. He framed it as a complete impossibility. But as the video went more viral, that narrative started to break down too. Because Americans started realizing, wait a minute, we actually do this. But only in very specific, highly protected situations. One user pointed out, "Then you've never been to a small town on parade day." Someone else mentioned early morning estate sales. If you show up at 5 a.m., people absolutely leave empty boxes, bags, or markers on the driveway to hold their place in line, and they go wait in their warm cars. And everyone respects it. Another commenter noted that you see this exact same behavior at massive political rallies. People leave chairs or jackets to save their spots for hours. So, it's not that Americans or Westerners lack the brain capacity to understand an invisible queue. It's that the concept only survives in environments where everyone feels a strong sense of shared community. The moment you step out of that small town or that specific rally and enter a standard public space, the social contract vanishes. And that brings us to the peak of the conversation. Why is there such a massive difference in the default social contract? Why does an empty phone case hold a spot in Bangkok while it gets punted across a room in a Western mall? Right in the middle of the chaotic comment section, a user named Nympho Lawyer dropped a surprisingly deep historical analysis. They pointed out that the early roots of the United States were built by people from struggling backgrounds, a mixture of the working class, petty criminals, desperate migrants, and wealth-seeking colonists. This created a society that was totally unbound by the rigid, inherited class structures of Europe. They argued that this lack of hierarchy, combined with a literal legacy of displacement and survival, contributed to the unique every-man-for-himself social order in the U.S. today. It's a culture of action. You snooze, you lose. You move your feet, you lose your seat. If you aren't physically defending your territory, it belongs to the next person who wants it. In contrast, the Asian approach is built on a completely different foundation. As one user put it, gotta like Asia for no one steals. Another commenter, speaking on the strict rules of the region, joked, respect others and your hands would disappear. While that's obviously an exaggeration, the core sentiment is real. It's a society built on collective agreement rather than individual conquest. But even with that collective agreement, human nature is still human nature. A commenter named Kiro shared a story that proved this system isn't always perfect, no matter where you are. People were doing the object queue method at Kiro's school. It was totally normal. Until one day, Kiro set their stuff down to get lunch. When they came back, a freshman had literally moved Kiro's stuff out of the way and replaced it with her own. When Kiro asked her about it, the freshman just gave her attitude. Kiro had to lay down the law, telling her, "Don't move my stuff again or it's going on the floor." The next day, there was no problem. And that story right there is the missing puzzle piece. It proves that even when the unwritten rule exists, it requires enforcement. It requires everyone in the room to look at a random object on the floor and silently agree, yes, that empty phone case is a human being. And if you disrespect the object, you are disrespecting the person. The creator who filmed this video thought he was just showing off a quirky way people stand in line, but what he actually captured was a mirror. He accidentally exposed the invisible lines drawn inside all of our heads, the lines that tell us what is mine, what is yours, and what is up for grabs. It's not really about whether a country is safe or dangerous, it's about how we define presence. So think about the city or town where you live right now. Think about your local coffee shop or your local DMV. If you placed your bag or your phone case on the floor to hold your spot and walked away for 10 minutes, what would be waiting for you when you got back? So, the next time you hear a story about this part of the world, ask yourself what they aren't telling you, because the reality is always a little more complicated than the tourist brochures. If you want to see what actually happens when you look beneath the surface, hit subscribe. This is the Thailand perspective. I'll see you in the next one.